Imagine a weapon so powerful, it destroyed the greatest empire in history. It didn't kill soldiers. It didn't burn cities. It killed something far more fundamental: trust itself. This is the story of Rome's death coin, the silver denarius that financed an empire, then buried it. For nearly 3 centuries, the Roman monetary system was a marvel of consistency. At its heart was the silver denarius, introduced around 211 BC during the Second Punic War. By the time of Emperor Augustus, this coin contained 95 to 98% pure silver and weighed about 3.9 grams. It wasn't just money. It was a promise. A legionary in Britain, a merchant in Egypt, a farmer in Gaul. They all knew exactly what a denarius was worth. The same coin could buy a skilled craftsman's daily wages or feed a family. This stability built an empire. But what made the denarius truly powerful wasn't the silver. It was what that silver represented: trust. When you held a denarius, you held proof that Rome kept its promises. The government minted these coins with consistent weight, consistent purity, year after year. This wasn't just good economics. It was the social contract made tangible. Trade flourished across thousands of miles because everyone, everywhere, accepted Roman silver at face value. The denarius became the reserve currency of the ancient world, the dollar of antiquity. And for over 2 centuries, this system worked flawlessly. Then came Emperor Nero. In 64 AD, the Great Fire ravaged Rome. Reconstruction was expensive. Military campaigns were expensive. Nero's lavish lifestyle was expensive. The treasury was running dry. So Nero discovered a simple trick. He ordered the mint to reduce the silver content from 98% down to about 90%. And he slightly reduced the coin's weight. They could now mint more coins from the same silver supply. To the average Roman holding a denarius, the difference was barely noticeable. But to the money changers, the merchants who handled thousands of these coins daily, they knew. They felt the difference in weight. They saw the slightly duller sheen. The seed of doubt was planted. Nero's debasement established a dangerous precedent. What started as a one-time emergency measure became standard imperial policy. Emperor Trajan reduced it to 85% silver. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher emperor beloved by history, brought it down to 75%. By the time of Septimius Severus and his son Caracalla in the early 200s AD, the denarius had plummeted to just 40 to 50% silver. But the real catastrophe was yet to come. The crisis of the 3rd century turned debasement into demolition. Between 235 and 284 AD, over 50 emperors seized power, most ruling for just months before assassination or military coup. Each needed money fast to pay the legions. Each debased the coinage further. By the reign of Emperor Gallienus in the 260s, the Antoninianus, a coin supposedly worth 2 denarii, contained just 2 to 5% silver. It was essentially copper with a silver wash. The denarius itself had become worthless scrap metal. And here's the crucial point: the Roman people weren't stupid. Merchants quickly realized they were being paid in garbage. If a farmer brought grain to market and received these debased coins, he simply doubled or tripled his prices the next day. When the coins lost half their silver, prices doubled. When they lost 95% of their silver, prices exploded. Historians estimate that by the year 301 AD, prices were 70 times what they had been under Augustus. This is hyperinflation at a civilizational level. When money becomes worthless, something fascinating and terrible happens. People simply stop using it. Across the empire, citizens began hoarding old silver coins, the ones from before the debasement. Merchants refused to accept new imperial currency entirely. Some regions issued their own local coinage, but mostly, Rome regressed. The empire that had built roads across continents, aqueducts that defied engineering logic, and trade networks spanning 3 continents. This empire fell back into a barter economy. Farmers traded grain for pottery. Soldiers demanded payment in goods, not coins. Taxes were collected in livestock and land. The economic complexity that had taken centuries to build unraveled in decades. The monetary collapse triggered a cascade of failures. With worthless currency, the Roman government couldn't pay its army reliably. Legions became increasingly reliant on foreign mercenaries, Goths, Vandals, men with no loyalty to Rome. These mercenaries demanded payment in gold or goods, not copper, masquerading as silver. When emperors couldn't pay, these soldiers simply turned on them. Political instability intensified. Meanwhile, trade networks disintegrated. Why would a merchant in Spain ship olive oil to Rome if the payment was worthless? Why would Egyptian grain feed Roman cities if the coins were trash? Self-sufficient estates replaced integrated trade. Cities depopulated as people fled to the countryside. The interconnected Roman economy fractured into isolated, localized subsistence communities. The Roman tragedy offers a stark lesson for our time. Once a government breaks trust in its currency, that trust is almost impossible to rebuild. Emperor Diocletian tried price controls in 301 AD. He legislated caps on 1,200 goods across the empire. It failed spectacularly, creating black markets and further eroding confidence. Emperor Constantine later introduced a new gold coin, the solidus, trying to restore credibility. But the damage was done. The denarius, which had funded Rome's rise, had financed its decline. Today, when we hear about quantitative easing or monetary expansion, we should remember Rome. The mechanics are different. We print paper or create digital entries, not melt coins. But the fundamental principle remains. Money is only valuable when people trust the institution behind it. Here's what Rome teaches us. The true value of money was never the metal it was made from. It was the trust we place in those who control it. Silver and gold cannot protect you if the institutions managing them are corrupt or desperate. The denarius failed not because silver became worthless, but because the promise behind the silver was broken. Repeatedly, systematically, until no one believed anymore. Every empire, every economy, every currency operates on collective faith. Break that faith, and you don't just lose your money. You lose the entire system that money makes possible. Rome learned this the hard way. The question is, will we? This is system failure, where we examine the systems that shaped our world and the moments they broke. If you want to understand how the most powerful structures in history collapsed from within,